Hey guys, it is January 29th. It's Oprah's birthday. Of course, I know what day it is. It's Wednesday. And I am at home for a snow day. For those of you who have heard all of the sort of stress about Atlanta, it's really real. Listen, I live like 4 miles from the office, and my assistant went to go get lunch, and she went to like Burger King, which might take her like 15 minutes total. She texted me like 45 minutes into her trip, like, I just got here. So I told her when she came back that we'd go. And I think about it, hindsight being 2020, I was so mortified that I even let her drive home. It took her like 9 hours to get home that she could have just stayed here at my house in my guest room. But, you know, my drive to work is about 8 minutes, and that's like in traffic, 8 minutes. And it took me 2 hours to get home. So it was very scary. And for those who are posting, oh, I can't believe it is 2 inches of snow. Like, there are a lot more factors that go into it. There are tons of people who've never driven in snow. I'm from California. I obviously have not. It's very hilly, valleys, hills, and it's like a sheet of snow, no preparation. And I got to a point where my car just started sliding on its own. Like, I didn't even touch anything, and it just started moving. Anywho, that's neither here nor there. I reached out on Twitter today and asked what I should do a podcast about, if anybody had any suggestions. And I got one with someone asked me about my experience as a woman of color in business. So I said, well, can you be more specific? So she asked me a couple more questions. So I put together 7 points about my experiences. So I guess this one will be somewhat personal, obviously peppered with tips and tricks and things that I've done along the way. For those of you who haven't listened to all 99 of my podcasts, long story short, I am the youngest of two children. My parents married as teens. My mother had me at 23. I went to private and public school. I like skipped the first grade. I was like deemed gifted, but then I got skipped to this like second grade class, and then they did a second grade, third grade mix, so that I ended up getting caught up with everyone. So I spent basically 2 years in the second grade or second, third grade, whatever it was. I guess from maturity purposes, they didn't want to skip me, and my mom was cool with it because she just didn't want me to rush through life. My mom was big on that. Like, she's not, she just didn't want me to be rushed. So she's like, whatever you guys think will work, that will keep her challenged. But I don't necessarily need her skipping. Anyway, so the advantages of being, before I get into what I'm pretty sure most of you know is quite a bit of struggle, the advantages of being a young African American woman in business is that there are several opportunities that are made just for you. So before I graduated college, I got an internship. Essence Magazine, essentially owned by Time Inc., got me a job at Unilever, which I do business with. I mean, Unilever owns Clear Ultra Shave, which is in the January curl box. So, I mean, this is a company that owns a lot of products. And so when I was in my early 20s, right before I graduated college, they got me an internship called the Summer of Beauty Internship, where I worked at Unilever on Fifth Avenue in the Trump Towers for 13 weeks. 13 weeks, and I had like real work, real job. I actually was somewhat mortified about it because I thought that I was going to spend my summer having fun. And when I got my assignments, I remember going downstairs my first week of my internship, like sobbing on the phone with my dad, like, this is some BS. I really, really have to work. And so my assignment was to basically make a recommendation on whether or not a particular shower gel size should be made for the German market. And so I basically got all these papers piled on my desk, and we're like, this is all the research. This is what our competitors are doing. These are the costs. I even had to go out to the plant that made the shower gel just to see logistically if it would make sense. Now, granted, I don't know if they really cared about what I thought or whatever my recommendation was, but I had to make a presentation at the end of the summer to like the VPs, HR, and of course, I was so nervous the day of my presentation. I spilled orange juice all over my slides. Like, I had those. I mean, back when those projectors. I mean, that's how old I am. But back when you used to put things on the projector, I spilled orange juice with pulp on like all my slides. I was just like, I can't believe it. But anyway, I got paid. I did a fine job. I guess I did a fine job. I mean, look, I'm here now. So there are some advantages. There are definitely some opportunities that companies are making for women of color. So I don't want to discount that because there are people trying. You just have to look for this and find it. And actually, the way I got the job was that Essence Magazine called me. I had applied to be a summer intern, and then they called me to say, hey, our internship program is full, but based on your resume, we see you've done a lot of makeup. We think you'd be great for this summer of beauty internship. Send us your transcripts, this and that. Ended up getting the job, and I was gone. Number two, I would say that, my experience as a woman of color in business, the number two thing I said is the initial discomfort. Um, Listen, I've had jobs with different, I am a brown girl with, what they call quote unquote ethnic features. And I've been in environments where I was the only um, black girl. And I will not pretend like it's not uncomfortable at times. I'm like, I look different. There's always those questions of like, your hair, how often do you wash it? Do you use this? Why are you doing that? And so the summer before, the couple of weeks before I ended up getting that internship in New York, well, I knew I'd be working the Trump Towers, and I just assumed I'd be one of very few African Americans. I went to Virgin Records downtown San Francisco. I was living in San Francisco at the time, and bought the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. This was over a decade ago. I see a lot of people reading it now, and I got it because I was like, I have no idea how to navigate this space. And I really want to make sure that my mind is sharp and I don't let my insecurities about being the only person get the best of me, because that's what can happen sometimes. I'm not we're all human, and when you're the only person that looks the way you do, and when people are being shady, because that's real. People are going to be shady towards you. You have to have the sharpest. You have to be on point with your game. And so I was like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I cannot go into this internship allowing myself to be defeated, because I'm the only person that can make me feel uncomfortable. I don't care what these girls do to me. I don't care what these women do. And it was Calvin Klein. It was khaki. You know what I mean? So if anybody who follows me, how colorful I am. And if you're listening, you know how passionate I can be. You think about a colorful girl and a khaki world. How am I going to navigate this? So I read the 48 Laws of Power, and that definitely got me on point. That actually spilled into number 3, where I talk about how I prepared. So I read the 48 Laws of Power. And then I said, you know what I'm going to do? I study a lot of non-black businessmen. I said, I want to learn. At the end of the day, everybody always says it's just business. And really it is. When you read, so I read about Jack Welch. I read all these different autobiographies by these really successful non-black, non-female. So it wasn't just about being non-black. I want to know, how are the people who are running the world running the world? And how do I glean tips from those people and figure out how I can run my little section of the world? And what I found out when I read a bunch of those things is that it was just about the number one thing that they focused on, which is being very good, being not just good, but the best. So that's where all of the energy was spent. It was not in cattiness. It was not in who's wearing what. It was not in she didn't call me back. It was not she stepped over me, or there's no catty drama in amongst these men at all. The other thing I noticed is that their attitude towards winning is that it's always about a winning attitude. And when you have a winning attitude, you aren't blaming people, you aren't beating yourself up, and you're not hanging on to things longer than you need to. It's like, I got to have a winner's attitude. And finally, it's just confidence. And confidence comes from knowing something very well. I always get asked to do podcasts on confidence, and it would be a short podcast. You don't have any confidence because you are not a master of anything. Confidence comes from knowing what you know really well. So if you want to gain confidence, learn something really well. Become very good at something. Number 4, my experience as a woman of color in business. What it has made me do, my experience has made me raise the bar for everyone around me. There is a must be excellent rule in working with me, and I like being wow. My mom always says, she's like, whenever I'm working with people, it's difficult for me if I'm not wowed, if you don't make me go, wow. And I can tell you that the people that I work with literally do that for me. Like there's just something about them. They are very good at what they do, or they stay on the extra mile, or they just do things that make me just go, wow, you know? And so you being a woman of color has challenges. Challenges is that why do I feel like I'm not saying that right? Has its challenges, but it's nothing that you can't like sort of defeat with excellence. Like that's the reason why I love sharing and doing these things is because I'm like it doesn't matter where you came from, what you have. And sometimes I see people and they write to me and it's just like, when I talk about these things and it's like, well, you don't know because this and that didn't happen to you. And, your mother didn't die or you weren't this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I say to myself, while I believe and I know that all those things are painful, and trust me, I did not have the rosiest of childhoods. However, your story is not what happened to you. You can't keep living that story because you had no control over that. You were a child. There are some things that you just can't control. Your story is what you make happen. That's what you should be telling people. Not about, my mother, my father, my brother, this happened, my blah. What are you? That's like, it's so sad because I see so many people. I mean, they're literally it's like they're walking around under this cloud of a story of something that they didn't do. And you can change your story by simply changing the way you think and changing the way you live. Like I simply have changed the way that I think and I live. So that's about raising the bar. Number 5, support. Um, I There's also a method of like we have to support each other. That is the tone in my office and with my team is support, support, support. If someone does something great, you have to support them. High five. Good job, so and so. You're doing a really good job. I like running it as a family, like running the unit as a family where everybody genuinely cares about the next person. So we are very much a family, a little family that, how's so and so doing? When Kendall's blog goes up, Tavia or someone is texting her, good job, or I'm, so proud of you. Everything's, Ilea, who's the graphic designer, Kendallin, I'm so proud of you. You're doing a good job. Everybody, we try to support each other. It's important. Number 6, I'll talk about the struggles, and that's the part that's really hard is, I am probably maybe 5'2", so I'm short. And so I'm small. I'm small and I'm African American and I'm 34. And without makeup, I probably look around 22, and even with makeup, I probably look around, let me doll myself up. I look around maybe 27. But I look young. And I look even younger if I'm not like dressed up. And so even dressed up, I still look young. And so it's very difficult when you are running the kind of business that I'm running or you're making the kind of deals that I'm making and you're spending, there are some companies that I have accounts with that I spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars with. And when you have people treating you like you're 12 or disrespecting you like you're not spending money with them, which I have experienced, I always get upset because I'm like, always start off being nice and respectful, but then you always have, those other people who are older and maybe not African American who have an issue with you telling them what to do or with you just maybe upset that you are even able to do this. And so I've had to snap on quite a few people over the course of doing this about how I like things, how I expect things to happen. It's like, don't ever get it twisted. Like, don't ever get it twisted with me that you're just going to sell me anything, you're going to tell me anything, and that I'm not going to check it. That's the other thing, too, is that, I am on my shit. Like, you're not going to pull the wool over my eyes. Every time somebody tries to trick you, pad bills, like you have to be on it because everyone's looking at you and assuming that you're young and you don't know any better. And you have to constantly, it sucks because sometimes you have to constantly sort of have this attitude like, I'm definitely not the one. I'm definitely not the one. So, you can't always be rosy, which is fine. So what? Who cares? Sometimes you have to, it's the respect thing. Being young and black and female, I mean, I've literally had people come into my office and we were trying to get the carpet clean. The guy walks in and it's like, if you see the office, there's maybe like 2 spots of faux carpet in there. And it was just because one of the contractors drug all this mud. So you get this guy who owns this carpet company. He comes in and most people don't know it's my company. And I don't go out of my way to tell them because what difference does it make? And so he comes in and he's like, oh, it's going to be, $180 to clean the carpet. I was like, to clean 2 carpet squares, dude? Like, are you kidding me? And he's like, well, it's a residential. And it's not even that. It's like you're just looking around and assuming, oh, it's a business. Oh, they have nice furniture. So, oh, I'm going to charge them $200 to clean 2 spots of carpet. I said, hey, check it out, homie. If this is the best that you can do, as a business owner, I understand this. If this is the best that you can do to clean these 2 little carpet squares, we'll just go somewhere else because I'm pretty sure I can get it done for $80. I know that I can. There are way too many people cleaning carpet in Atlanta to be doing this. And so he was like, wow. He was like, you're crazy. I was like, no. You're crazy. You're crazy for thinking that you were going to come in here and try to play me. So lo and behold, last week we got the carpet cleaned. Guess who cleaned it? He did. Guess how much he cleaned it for? $80. Guess who's not crazy? I'm not. Always things like that I have to constantly stay on people, and making sure that people respect me regardless of what I look like and regardless of like what they think I can do. And I think the other struggle is that I was in honors classes in high school, and it's like because of I guess what I'm into or how I dress, the part that people are so shocked at how people, you're so smart. Oh my God, you know your stuff. You're on it. I mean, why would I not be? You know what I mean? Because of where I'm from or the way that I look, I'm not supposed to be smart. And so that part's always like annoying and something that I'm just working through and I'm dealing with is going places and having to essentially explain myself, which some people tell me to get over it and I get it, but it's just annoying, like I fly, I fly a lot. So I fly first class, often because of all my miles. Like, I get bumped up to, because of my medallion status, I'm usually always offered an upgrade. It's rare that I don't fly first. And, I had on like my army cargo pants and like a little sweater and like my Jordans, had my braids up in a bun, and I'm trying to like they call first class, and I like to go to first class because I like to get the free drinks. Like I'm like, oh God, I'm flying to New York tonight. I want a drink. I'm getting on first. And so this lady who doesn't even work at Delta stops me to be like, they haven't called you yet. And I'm like, excuse me? She's like, they only call first class. I'm like, well, they didn't call you, boo. Like, I'm getting on. It's like little things like that. And then I get on the plane, and the girl who works there, the girl who's the flight attendant, she's like, I need to card you. I'm just like, oh my God. Okay, whatever. Things like that, sitting at the bar, you go nice places, you do nice things, or you just, or I've gone to meetings. I've gone to big meetings, and I've had people at companies like really want to know what's my position at Curlbox. Like, what is your position? What do you really do? And I'm like, I own it. It's like, what? You really? I'm like, yeah, me, really. So that part's difficult. But the second thing that I have is that all of it is also very rewarding because I think that what it does is it single-handedly sort of changes the way people think about girls that look like us, what they think that we can do, what our capabilities are, and it changes, it just changes the way what you think we are capable of, and it changes what you think we're capable of. And so, it was so crazy. The last person I dated happened to be Caucasian, an older white guy. And I think he felt the same way. It's just like, wow, you're so very cool. Like this was so, I've learned, it just changes society's perception of us, which I think is necessary. So, I mean, I did the best I can with that. I'm pretty sure I missed everything under the sun, but that's a little bit of my experience as a woman of color in business. Bye, y'all.